Um, Thank you. So welcome everybody to today's Culture Chat, Culture 2125, Imagining Intercultural Life a Century from Now. So today I want you, you're gonna have to bear with me here, all right? My husband and I, we had our 11-year anniversary. We went up north to Lake Superior and basically nothing around extreme silence. And there might have been a glass or two of wine, and this is where this culture chat kind of came from. So as we go through this journey, sometimes you're gonna have to stick with me. And Michael, I was happy to see that you posted about that AI topic. I'd love for us to do that. So I'm doing a lot of work in the AI space, so you can kind of imagine some of this twist is coming. So I want to take you with me to the future, right? So I want you to imagine the years 21, 25, and thinking about how might we navigate culture, our identities, communication, 100 years from now. What are the challenges you think we might face? What are the competencies you think people will need? So that's kind of like the framing of what I want you to be thinking as we go through. I'm gonna, share some of my own reflections about what I think around shifting identities. These are not necessarily all based in research. Some of these, are my own opinions and my own reflections. Um, so as we go through this, let's do this together. So first thing I want to say is, in one word, and you can put this in the chat box, how would you describe your hope for intercultural life in 2125? So, one word, how would you describe your hope for intercultural life in 2125? More, human, yes, never ending, optimistic, peace, normalized, empathy, peaceful, yeah. A lot around that idea of peace, acceptance, more peace, community, greater understanding, respect for others, understanding, uncertain, global understanding, globalized, communicative, i.e., lack of an echo chamber. Yeah, that's good. Status quo, autopilot, healthier, tolerance, couple on tolerance, celebration of difference. Yeah, these a lot of those words came to my mind as well. So, we're already seeing trends interdependent around hope, complexity, and curiosity. So let's jump right on in. So I think we're going to have some shifting identities. And this is the first category that I want to talk about. So I've been thinking, what does it mean to belong in a world where culture isn't chosen? It's not inherited. So in 2125, identity might no longer be defined by your birth country, your race, or your native language. Instead, perhaps we would construct identity daily, kind of like creating a playlist, right? People assembling and remixing from multiple traditions in real time, rather than inheriting one dominant cultural lineage. So, you could subscribe to being to a Nigerian aesthetic or adopt Japanese politeness norms and share your evenings perhaps with an AI companion trained in your grandmother's memory. So, that's not science fiction, actually. This is a dashboard, a cultural dashboard that's being developed and is being tested and piloted. So, that's not something that Tasha just thought of up in Superior with a glass of wine. That is something that is really being developed. So, I found that quite interesting. What about this idea of post-national citizenship? So, as we have climate migration, digital work, and interplanetary expansion, right? Like we're seeing that as well. That's something also for us to consider. More people might start to identify as planetary citizens. So that one might be a little bit far out there for you. So I said there might be some times you need to stay with me. But, as we do have space exploration, these sorts of things are going to potentially come into play, pardon me. Um, do we think national loyalty might fade? Why pledge allegiance to one flag when you can live in Barcelona and work in a virtual Nairobi and spend weekends with your Mars-born in-laws, right? So I'm seeing Alan's laughing. He's going, where's she going with this? But home can become a node, not necessarily a place, right? So identities might become more fluid, perhaps more fixed. So here's my spiky question for you. Do you think ancestry will even matter if we can remix our own identity daily? Any thoughts in the chat box on that? You can put that in and we'll come back to that. At least just something to think about. Um, AI and identity co-creation. So this has been a hot topic in some circles that I've been discussing. So our identities are now looking like they could potentially be partially co-authored by AI companions. And these AI companions are managing, could be managing our reputations, co-creating art with us, mediating our emotions. So something I think about and I often reflect on is if you're, and we're not going to go into this, but just something for you to think about maybe later on. If your AI knows your cultural story better than you do, right? Who owns your identity then? And that could be legalistic or just, from a reflection point of view. Okay, so I want to just get some of your thoughts. I'm launching a poll on the screen. Hopefully you can see that. In 2125, which will define you more, do you think? Your nationality, your network, your AI, none of the above, and perhaps you want to pop something in the chat and we can look at those. Molly put in there, yes, ancestry will matter. What are you talking about, Tasha? Jyoti, all the above. Okay, yeah. Give you another maybe 15 seconds. And this is interesting because I can see what you guys are voting at. And well, we'll wait till everyone posts. We don't want to influence the data here, right? Okay, so I'm going to share the findings here. So your nationality, only 2 out of 31 of you thought that, so 6%. Network, pretty over, pretty strong on yes, your network is going to define you more. And only one of you said AI, and then none of the above. So I'd be interested to see what you thought for none of the above. Um, CB, people want to feel like an individual, but we are social animals. Yeah, exactly. Um, okay, so that kind of I took you on that path of shifting identities. And the next area I wanted to explore with you is this emerging intercultural competencies. So that was kind of the second category around our culture chats that we were that we saw amongst the topics. So, what skills are we going to need next? We talk a lot about empathy in general, active listening, open-mindedness, these sorts of things. I think, yeah, of course, those are all critical, but in the future, those might just be the baseline. So here's what I believe 2125 might demand of us. And you might have kind of already gotten some of this vibe from what I've presented thus far, but empathy with tech fluency. So imagine, and this is another conversation that I had, but imagine you're wearing a device that senses discomfort and suggests better phrasing in real time and coaching you in real time when you're speaking to someone. That's also some sort of AI software that's being developed. So almost that direct, immediate feedback. But again, then you think, okay, what are the dangers of all this? Will we learn to be empathetic, or are we just learning to perform empathy? Are we actually learning that trait? So this idea of reality code switching. So today we code switch across cultures, right? And in 2025, I think we're going to be code switching across realities between physical, virtual, AI, augmented spaces, and each of them are going to have their own norms. This idea of cognitive multiculturalism, so not just tolerating worldviews, but actually simulating them. So imagine stepping into a virtual environment where you fully embody the worldview of another culture. And that is an actual experience that could be developed. So, future interculturalists, I don't think are going to just say, oh, what's your story? I think what could happen is we can download that story and walk around in it as a future perspective. So, my next question to you is what what culture, oops, sorry, let me go back. Which future skill do you think will be most important? Virtual norm switching, so having the capability of switching between virtual and real life, that sort of uh, a skill. Emotional AI navigation, simulating worldviews, or language is still going to matter the most. Or if you have a different thought, you can pop that in the chat box as well.
You mean for 21, 20, I forgot. Do you mean for
Yes.
back then or okay, all right.
100 years ahead of time. We're moving
Okay.
to the future. Yeah. So this one we're looking at, it's more oh, just never mind. I'll stop that because it was more evenly distributed if it changed. I see. Well, while we're filling that out, I'm just gonna have a look and I see, can we get a definition of what some of these mean? Yeah, so virtual norm switching basically means going through, being able to go through virtual worlds and then meeting with humans, if you will. And then emotional AI navigation. So as we're using different AI tools, like that example that I gave, where you're picking up on someone else's emotions, but you're being coached through that. So being able to see AI not just as a tool, but understanding that there's some almost like humanistic aspects of emotion behind it. Simulating worldviews. So again, stepping into not just learning about another person's perspective, but being able to step into that virtual environment and navigate that perspective by having that worldview, or at least experiencing it to learn it more intimately. And then language is language. Kathy says, not just one future skill, always a group of skills. That's a great point, of course. Yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna end the poll and share. Three, two, one. So most people are saying, yeah, this virtual norm switching. So being able to kind of navigate culture and life in the virtual world, but also then being able to have the skills to operate in real life. Are those different? If how might we develop those skills? How might we understand what we need, other than just the traditional doing research and learning on the go? As interculturalists, we should be paving the path forward for understanding this, and it's hard to do when we don't know what the future holds per se. Okay, so the third category that I looked into, that was a theme amongst the 100 culture chats, was rituals. So, rewriting rituals in a virtual world. Culture, as we know, is not just values. It's how we mark meaning. It's our rituals. It's birthdays, weddings, goodbyes, all of those sorts of things. But I think these are going to evolve in the future. There's already talk around digital death rights. So with consciousness archives of AI avatars of our deceased family members, this is something that's being created. So are we, as we mourn the shift from headstones to holograms, will we grieve less? Are we going to grieve more? Will we never let go because people will be encapsulated in these sorts of holograms? What about post-national holidays? So we might start seeing these shared rituals that go beyond just our borders, like Global Climate Remembrance Day or AI Human Harmony Week, these sorts of things. What types of new rituals are going to come about? We also, there's this idea around intercultural family bonds, right? So imagine a marriage ceremony for two people. Again, this might be, follow me here. One might be a sentient, another one might be an AI figure, or, co-parenting between people in three different time zones. All of these sorts of things are being posed in different forums as we discuss. So can rituals designed by algorithms still be sacred? What do you think? I think that's our challenge, is to build meaning, not just mimic a tradition. But I'm just having a look here. AI just starting a or I'm starting a just starting a project with which will allow you to interact with lifelike avatars from different cultures and different business situations. Yeah. Digital funeral rites. These are things that I've thought about as well. Anything is possible for as long as people have a choice, right? So there's all these moral considerations as we move into the future, that we need to be thinking about. So, another quick poll for you is, which cultural, oh, sorry, it's not letting me launch it. Which cultural ritual do you most hope survives in 2125? Why don't you go ahead and put that in the chat box? Which cultural ritual do you most hope survives in 2125? I'm hoping birthdays do. I like celebrating people's birthdays. Um, Connecting over meals. Yeah, empathy. Human in-person interaction, right? Marriage. Appreciating others. The pub. Celebrating holidays, celebrating birthdays. Yes. Food and cooking. Yeah, these are all good. Transitions, hugging. Yeah, not this idea. And Anne, I'd be interested to hear what you mean by transitions. Because in the future, are people going to physically transition, or does that transition just, experience?
Well, is it just me or
No, I can't
Everything
hear it. Can't hear
froze.
anything.
Yeah.
the AI has taken her away?
AI is had enough of me. He's like really suspect. Where did I leave off? Did you hear oh, do you hear me?
Yep,
Yeah,
you're back.
we do now.
Okay.
You got to go back about 30 seconds.
Okay. Well, pretty much what I was saying is, yeah, I mean, I don't know what I was saying. So I lost my train of thought there, but not to worry. What I want to do,
Questions that were surviving, I think, is where we were at.
okay. So basically, what I want us to do is I want us to go into breakout rooms very briefly. Oh yeah, I said thank you for coming along this weird journey with me of kind of, in some ways, nonsensical reflections, but also just not to put you in a panic in any way, but to get us thinking around, okay, how is this going to shift? Um, for those of you who are lucky to be here in 100 years' time, well done. Keep up the good work. For those of us who won't necessarily be here in 100 years' time, what's one message that you would want to send to interculturalists in 2125? What would it be? As you go into your breakout rooms, I want you to think about that message. And when we come back, let's share that. And then the other thought or prompt that I want you to consider is, in one sentence, what do you hope intercultural life looks like in 2125? You guys did put some words out already, so maybe that one's less of a question to pontificate on. But if you could send one message to interculturalists in 2125, what would it be? And feel free to discuss all of the things that we just discussed. So we're going to put you into breakout rooms. So I hope you all had some good conversations and lots of ideas came up, and I want to open the floor. I know our group, we had some interest, at least I believe they were interesting conversations. Anyone want to kick us off with either just a reflection that came from your group, or what is a message that you would want to send to interculturalists in 2025, 2125?
What I would. Wait a minute.
Yeah,
React.
please. Please, Sylvia.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, we summarized it because there was a lot of discussion, as there was, I'm sure, in every group. And the summary was, don't lose your individual humanness and personal and cultural identity. That would
And
be
that sounds
that
like,
would be what we would suggest to them then. So
Yeah, and I think that sounds like a workshop. So if anyone wants to start working on that, maybe you'll have people ready to join sooner than later. Nicely put. I agree. I think that human component is something for me that is, we can embrace all this wonderful technology and what that looks like. We don't necessarily even know what it's going to look like in the future, but we can't lose our humanity, the human side of things. Renata.
Well, I tried to write down what everybody said, come up with like one phrase per person. So here's my summary of 4 people, as in short, which is learn to coexist, go with the flow, don't lose hope, and let there be peace and space for learning.
Love it. That's great. I think I think that applies now as well. Yes, thank you. Same messages in our group. Michael said we had remember to be human. Yes. What other thoughts did you have around, AI? How might you use it within your own current work, or have you had any reflections around that? Anything else that came from your group? Anything that we think is, a bit noteworthy to share?
In our group, we didn't talk as specifically as how we'd use it in our work, but we did, Hannah mentioned the environmental impact, and others in the group really chimed into that. And of course, we need to be careful that about the way that we're generating enough energy in the world. So talking about the natural environment, and then noticing that negative spiral happening and wanting really to counterbalance. So, in terms of our work, perhaps that's the spirit that I'm taking away from the conversation in our group, is being cognizant of what we need to be careful of and account for, but to do that also in a positive way. To keep the optimism was another theme that came up in the group, to keep that present, and then we ended it with humor. And so I hope I touched on something that all of the participants in our group shared in some way there.
Yeah, thank you. And yeah, that environmental impact is something, to be thinking about as well. So thanks for kind of bringing that in because that sparks a whole nother line of thought for me personally, but I think perhaps for others as well. I thought I saw someone else was looking to. Hannah, were you going to say something? No?
No.
Okay. No,
I
that's fine.
think everybody said it well.
No, that's fine. I just saw your mic was off, so I thought maybe you were
Mm.
trying to chime in.
Um,
Any other thoughts? Michael, you're highly engaged in AI. Did you have, I think Vanessa, you do quite a bit of work with that as well. At least exploring it and being interested in it, right? Any thoughts that you guys
Yeah,
want to add to
well,
the conversation?
we didn't really talk about AI as
Okay.
such. We're talking more about nationality versus global outlook and locality and patriotism, etc. But I mean, I certainly use AI daily in the work that I do now, and I think I mentioned in the chat this program, which I wouldn't mind talking about at some point, which generates situational games based on culture, and the avatars as well. But one topic which we didn't actually discuss really is my latest game is about generational culture, um,
Mm.
which the more you look into it is you know a very important aspect. Yeah. Anyway, I'm rambling a bit, but those were just my off the cuff reflections.
Yeah, and to your point now, I think generational culture is also something that's important. I think like my mom, every time I go over, there's always something on her phone or iPad I need to be fixing that to me takes 15 seconds. And I think I've showed you this 5 times, right? And so perhaps that learning curve is going to be completely different for that 21, 25 of interacting with not just technology, but as humans, right? So maybe the older generations in 21, 25 have maybe they will would have had more human interaction. So maybe what needs to be trained is for those younger generations, how to be human. That might be a bigger part of our training sessions.
Mm.
Uh, Judy. Judy also just learned about the Gen Z stare. So see, Peter, you're not alone. I had not heard of that myself, either. So I found that quite interesting.
What is
Um,
it? Can you fill us in? Because we came later.
oh, I'm sorry. Yes, Peter, please.
No, I was talking to a fellow coach that works with a younger demographic to me, and they were saying, you know, actually one of the reoccurring things they work with Zennials and millennials pushing through into executive levels is working on their facial expressions, because they have come through the work cycle in a time of Zoom calls, having your camera off, staring at a phone at a screen, and they've forgotten that sometimes their facial expression can be very disconcerting. So there is a look where they kind of look with a bit of a tilted head, kind of engaged, mouth open, just faceless, which is then not boding them very well in interpersonal interaction, especially in a board environment. So a lot of their coaching is around being conscious of obviously how you use your eye contact and your mouth positioning, because they've just not had to. They so much of their career has been spent online.
I can totally back that. I can totally relate to that, because I'm a child psychotherapist, and I have my practice is full of people with social anxiety who are really afraid of doing phone calls because they don't have to do it anymore. It's, yeah.
Very much. I mean, I think obviously from Michael's point, I think the whole, this going forward 100 years, the whole idea of nation states, it's very difficult to actually understand how that survives. And sometimes I think we forget actually how like young many nations are. I mean, there's lots of nations out there that aren't even 100 years old. So the actual idea of dividing the world up into little parcels of land, controlled by one thing, has not always been the way. And maybe we are heading towards a future in 2125, where those boundaries get more blurred, and those nationalisms, and again, I think, as Michael said, with generations, it definitely increasingly is more evident that certain age demographics are more nationalistic than others. You know, I think it'll look very different in 100 years' time.
But then the question is, will we all come together, or will somebody swallow everybody else? You know, and what would that be like?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, all things to, that we're constantly reflecting on this, and I'm hopeful for the future, and I'm hopeful in the work that we all do. So as Anne started by saying, keep up the good work. It's important work that we do. So thank you, everybody. We will see you in September. Enjoy the rest of your summer or winter, and thank you for helping us celebrate 100 episodes. It's great to have this community, and we all feel very privileged to have you come each week. For those of you who are new, your first time, again, welcome, and we'll see you again soon. Thank you, everybody.